Hey there, we're here with another episode of Fixing Stuff with Beer, where today we are going to try and put these here brakes on this here Mini with the help of that there beer. Because the other day the alternator belt went out on this car and we took it over to the Mini dealership, and $1,200 later we had the alternator belt on, but in the process they also said, hey, by the way, you need brakes, and that's going to be about $800, to which I said, hell no. I think I can do it myself with the aid of some brakes and a beer. Today's beer we're going to go with is Stone Ripper from the fine folks at Stone Brewery in Escondido, California. The Stone here is a 5.7% alcohol beer. It's got juicy hops in it. We're talking Cascade hops from the Pacific Northwest, as well as Galaxy hops from Australia. G'day. So let's give this bad boy a taste and let's get going. First sip. That's juicy. That's kind of a little grapefruity, maybe some passion fruit vibe going on there, but super tasty, as are all the beers from Stone. So let's dive in. So to get this thing going, first we laid out our tools. We got ratchets and wrenches. We got a jack stand. We have a jack which I pulled out of the Acura. Got some hammers and some bungee cords. Now, why did I get the jack out of the Acura? Because in the trunk here of the Mini is a jack. However, I've discovered in the past that this jack works about as well as, I don't know, Brexit? It must be a British thing, but the thing is garbage. Alright, so we did mention it's about 11 o'clock in the morning and, you know, I'm having a beer while fixing a car. These are all horribly bad ideas, but there's a Warrior game on tonight. I didn't want to get caught up in the fixing of the car while the Warriors hopefully hop back in at 3 to 3. We'll find out. But anyway, let's have sip number 2. Better every sip. So what we want to do first is we're going to loosen some lug nuts, raise the car, take the tire off, and put it on a jack stand, and we'll do that all lickety-split. Alright? There's a lot of brake dust, things like that, so I'm going to put on some gloves. Keep things a little safer. And as always, safety glasses. Alright, also you can probably see that I'm sitting here on a yoga mat. Very important to have a comfortable workspace, and the yoga mat gives me a little protection from the knees on the cement. But it also reminds me to stay calm as all this shit goes sideways and I get super angry at the car. So look at the mat, peace, otherwise nice soft spot. First thing you want to do, loosen the lugs. As you're doing this, one thing I want to point out is I have the parking brake off on the car, so it's easier to release the brakes in the back. One important thing to do is to block your tires, because the emergency brake's going to be off while we do this. Driveway's got a little slope to it, it's halfway out, and we don't want the car to roll, because although the people across the street have a really nice driveway and a tree in the front yard, I don't think they want our Mini rolling into it as we do this. Okay, so I tend to use the 2-jack system. So first is we get the jack on the jack point underneath the vehicle, and again, we're using the jack from an Acura. Yours won't look like this if you're using the Mini, but take the Acura jack, and then you call the other jack. Jack! Rotate that clockwise until the car gets off the ground. Okay, I also want to go ahead and stick this jack stand underneath the car in the back. You don't want to just have your car sitting on a plain old jack like that. Okay, so the jack stand is underneath there. That's on. Let's go ahead and get the rest of these lugs off the car. Okay, so with the tire off, what we want to do is get this caliper removed entirely. So we have brake sensor monitor going in. We've got to get these 2 bolts off, and we're going to pull out the parking brake so we have a little extra room to work, okay? So first things first, 15 ratchet. And something to hold the inner piece in place. These all have really good names. I have no idea what they are, but let's get this guy. Wow, that was shockingly easy. So, yeah, pull the parking brake off. Okay, once you have the parking brake released, bolts out, I'm going to pull the caliper setup off so you can access the brake pads. But one thing I want to do is hang this thing up from the suspension or from this tire down there, because you don't want to have it hit the ground or put undue tension on the brake line running into it. So we can pull it off. Gonna go ahead and thread this bungee cord through it. And just kind of stick it up there somewhere where you can kind of leave it out of sight. Out of sight, out of mind. So you got a brake pad on the inside, brake pad on the outside, and with any amount of luck, these just pop right out. Wear's not too bad, but Mini said we needed them. Therefore, we need them. But we're not going to pay them $800 to do it. Okay. Brake pad off, brake pad off. We're going to go ahead and replace the sound dampers as well. So, 2 brake pads off, 2 brake pads off. I'd say we're halfway there. Stone Ripper, I think you get a treat. Alright, so halfway through this beer, pretty good. Don't spill. Dangers of working and drinking. Again, Stone Ripper from San Diego West Coast IPA, 5.7. It's a 40 on the International Bitter Scale, however they work that out. I don't know. I'm not a beer expert, but I do like to drink it. So, overall, so far, really good. But the downside is, once I get these brakes back on, I'm going to have somebody else test drive the car. Do not drink and drive. With the brake pads in now, we want to go ahead and replace the brake pad sensor. Not entirely sure why the brake pad sensor wasn't actually on to tell us the brakes were bad. It was just Mini telling us the brakes were bad because I think they wanted to sell us some brakes. Clearly they're worn. Were they needing to be done? No. But when your wife hears from the Mini dealer that you need new brakes, trust me, you need new brakes. Alright, so the brake pads are reattached, the brake pad sensor is reattached, and what I want to do now is get the caliper back on, but unfortunately there's a piston stuck in the middle of this thing that is pressed too far out because these brake pads, the old ones, were far thinner than the new ones, which are thicker. So what you want to do is press the piston back into its hole, and unfortunately, although I have superhuman strength, I can't push that back in. So there are many tools available to do that. I don't own any of those, but I do own a C-clamp, and what I want to do is just stick the C-clamp on here, twist it down, which will push the piston back into its hole. Do I think it'll work? I don't know, but it's all I got, so let's give it a shot. Hey look, we're on AutoZone. Because like everything else about stupid car, you need a special tool to do every single effing thing with it. So we're going to go in and get a brake compression tool, and hopefully that'll work out. As we just saw, the simple solution didn't work, so what I had to do is go get this little multi-tool to compress the piston back into the slot. Fits into a 5/8 ratchet. See what we can do here. Oh yeah, had to go to the auto parts store, but keep in mind that we've been drinking this morning, so somebody else drove. Thank you. Stone is a really good beer. You should check it out. It will be bought again. All right, there we go. All right, so with the right tools, easy peasy. Monitor back in. Got our 2 bolts. The pads are on, sensors in, parking brakes on, everything's clamped back into spot. We're gonna throw the tire back on, lower it to the ground, and we got 3 more to go. So this first one took about 45 minutes minus 1 trip to AutoZone. It took about a beer. I think the other 3 should go much better because we know what we're doing. Well, do we really know what we're doing? Anyway, 3 more, 1 more beer, but again, Stone Ripper, rad. Mini, hate it. Don't buy one, buy a Jeep. Okay, the second set went on pretty easily. The car's back on the ground, lug nuts are tightened up, and I'm going to enjoy a little more of this stone. But as you can see, even though they went on easily, it wasn't without danger. So again, be careful when you're doing these things. Wear gloves, wear safety goggles. Don't drink while you're doing this. Don't drink and drive. Somebody else has got to go test these, make sure they run. And if all is good, we're going to turn the car around as well, put the front set on, and we will be good to go. But I'd like to thank the fine folks at Stone for making this Ripper. It's a killer beer. Again, 5.7, 40 on the IBU. Smooth drinking, grapefruity, a little passion fruity. It's good beer. You can have a couple during the day and not worry about, well, getting hammered. So, have a great day. Go beer. Fixing stuff with beer. So because I'm not a total idiot, I'm going to have somebody else test drive the car. Jack, who you saw jack up the car earlier, is in the car, fired it up. Looking good, and, you know, better him than me. He's off. We are working on the front brake now. One thing I want to point out, it's slightly different on the front. You can undo the bottom bolt and leave the top one in. And you can just fold the top up in order to access the brake pads. They'll pop right out. But once this is up, you do want to prop it in place with a bungee cord or something so it doesn't keep flopping down. But again, a little different than the back, that you don't have to take both bolts out and remove the caliper. It just folds up to remove the brakes. So you can see we just bungeed it up. That's down. I did want to point out on the front brakes that you can use the C-clamp to press in your piston on the front much easier than you did on the back. You need that special tool for the back, basic C-clamp here. Just put it on, start slowly turning, and you can push that piston right back in. Alright, the Mini's back on the ground, the brakes are good to go. Somebody else test drove because I had a few beers while I was putting the brakes on, and drinking and driving, bad idea. Drinking and fixing stuff, pretty good idea. That's why it is fixing stuff with beer. Again, don't drink and drive. Use precaution when you do this. Wear safety goggles, protect yourself at all times, and buy Stone Ripper from Stone Brewery, Escondido, California. It's a killer beer, 5.7. But when you really want to have some fun, buy yourself a Jeep. It's really the best thing you could do. Peace. Fixing stuff with beer.